Space Action Podcast with your hosts Chris Carson and DC and Shama.
In time, you will know what it's like to lose. To feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same.
Welcome to the Space Action Podcast, an extension of Space Action Heroes, the webcomic, which you can check out at spaceactionheroes.com. I'm Chris Carson.
DC and Shama.
Who the hell are you guys?
DC and I decided to make our ranking Marvel movie list from best to worst, and we'll see if you guys agree with us. You can comment if you don't, or if you do, and what your list would be. But do you want to just go one each?
Should we start from the least liked to the best?
Sure, let's go worst to best.
Okay.
So your worst...
Edward Norton Hulk.
Yeah, mine as well. As well.
It's like by default.
You know, I would love it if they went back and just reanimated the Hulk to look like the other Hulks.
The clunky Hulk, the chubby Hulk.
Yeah, it's been the same Hulk for all of his appearances, except for the Edward Norton one, where he's this like strung out, junky looking Hulk.
He coincidentally looks like Tyler Durden.
Right.
They modeled him all ripped. I'm like, yeah. I don't dig it, dude. It looks weird.
I mean, you can't put in Mark Ruffalo, but you can put in like a special edition, throw in the Hulk.
They did it with Yoda. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that would be number 19, is it?
It's my I might have missed a couple then. My list was 17 long.
Oh, this is the 19th movie, yeah.
Oh crap, I missed some then. Oh well, we'll roll with it.
So the next one I put my second worst Avengers or Marvel is Iron Man 2.
Ooh, really?
Yep, that's way down at the bottom.
It's not great.
No, I really don't like Iron Man 2.
That movie's like a doorstop. It just holds a place. It doesn't really do anything. I had Dark World.
Dark World, okay, interesting. I like Dark World more than most people do. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I know it's silly, but like the whole concept of the Dark World is about this ether and how it's like, I don't know if it was by intent or accident that the movie is also this nebulous go nowhere thing, but if it was actually intentional, it's brilliant.
That is genius.
But if it wasn't, then it falls down on my list.
Where is the plot? It's in Natalie Portman. Ether. I'm Natalie Portman.
Right.
The plot is in me, and we're going to dwell on this for way too long. And it's like, oh god damn it.
If Iron Man 2 would have been higher on the list too, if he'd actually, they just took his alcoholism from the comic and replaced it with his chess piece was killing him.
Which.
I would if they made him an alcoholic, that would have made it like almost number one.
It would have been perfect. That one, and I really can't stand the shoehorned in Shield subplot.
No, yeah,
it drives me nuts.
They learned their lesson at least.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
Next one.
Doctor Strange.
I have Ant-Man as number 17.
Yeah, I haven't been next. Yeah. I'm not a Doctor Strange fan.
I always like Doctor Strange, so I give it a bit of a pass because I know how these first ones. Because the Doctor Strange 2 will be brilliant.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think visually it's easily up there with like Guardians as one of my favorites for like, visually.
For sure. Yeah.
But like it's beat for beat Iron Man. It's like, and I'm just like, it's just a copy of Iron Man, but with a bigger douchebag. And I'm sorry, I'm not a huge Cumberbatch fan.
Yeah, Cumberbatch seems like a bit of a dick, especially going down the rabbit hole of watching all the behind the scenes interviews and shit. He's always so dicky.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
And like maybe that's our fault. We always cast him in characters that are always better and smarter than everybody, like Sherlock Holmes, Doctor Strange. And I'm just like, it's just. You know these are characters, right? Yeah. In real life, you're the guy who voiced a dragon and crawled around in a bodysuit.
Even though you didn't need to.
Yeah. We've seen the footage, buddy.
And then the animators being like, he didn't need to do that.
There were no cameras.
They just, he
was in the parking lot.
He just wanted to get into it. All right. Number 16, I have Captain America, the First Avenger. I'm not a big fan of that one. Yeah.
I revisited that one in lead up to this week, and I liked it way more.
Really?
Yeah.
I revisited it about a year ago, and it still feels like a first act, a bloated second act, and then a 13-minute long final act where everything just happens because it needs to happen.
I agree. The third act's
him crashing the plane makes no sense, especially since in his next movie he jumps out of a plane without a parachute. Like,
he didn't learn that skill yet. That took years of him being a JSOC agent, taking out, ninjas and stuff.
I guess so.
But I did like what's his face. Watching it again, his performance, just knowing that I thought he was gonna die because there was a gauntlet in his face. But what did I know?
All right. Yeah.
Watching his journey from being this little scrawny kid getting the shit kicked out of him behind a theater, working his way up. I like the Russo Captain America movies a lot.
Yeah, I don't mind them. I just hate the editing.
Hate the editing. That's fair. And I didn't realize. I always kind of wrote that one off because I'm like, Joe Johnson, like
doing his Rocketeer, but not as good. That's
exactly.
how I kind of still think about it.
Yeah, it has a montage and everything in the middle. But nonetheless, when I watched them, I'm like, no, this one does kind of have the tone that the Russos had, where they really drove home, like, this guy will fucking jump on a grenade and sacrifice his life.
And shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
Very pro-gun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, he kills a lot. Like, and that's what they didn't... Now he just kind of smacks people around with his shield, but no, he straight up murks people.
Well, there's that whole scene of him busting the warehouse and just shooting like 5 people in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these are just... I know it's World War II, so they're evil
They're
Germans.
Nazis.
It's not as bad as
They're
World War
Hydra
I.
Nazis.
Yes.
That's like super Nazis.
It's not as bad as Wonder Woman killing Germans in World War One, where you're like, they weren't the bad guys, right? They were just another country that was part of this
she's
fight.
courageous.
Yeah.
She's so beautiful.
All right, number 15, I had Thor, the original Thor.
I think that's where I had Ant-Man.
You got Ant-Man there?
Yeah.
And then
why do I have Thor higher
than Ant-Man?
I made this list when I was under the influence of some libations.
Makes sense. Well, so going up, then after Thor is Thor the Dark World. I like Thor the Dark World better than the original Thor. I don't like the Branagh Thor that much with his weird dyed blonde eyebrows.
Yeah, that bugged the shit out of me when I rewatched it. Holy crap.
It really looks so weird.
I think the scenes on Asgard, I just hate the part in the middle where it turns into a bad 90s movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, bring more of this ale. I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous.
But also in the original comic, and I don't know if a lot of people remember this, Thor, well, he's just a guy, and then it's whoever holds the hammer gets the power of Thor, so it's like a Shazam thing. So the actual guy as Thor has been different dudes. I don't remember their names because I never really read Thor, but it's like Jim Johnson, and he picks up the thing and he becomes Thor.
Gotcha.
So I really, I remember seeing before that movie was just praying that Kenneth Branagh would be like, it would be Chris Hemsworth as just a dude, and he picks up the hammer, and then he's Kenneth Branagh with like beautiful hair. It's like, I am Thor.
I'm picturing Kenneth Branagh in his version of Hamlet.
Yeah,
that he did it like just like totally sensational. Like, hello,
I'm Thor.
I'm Thor.
I was really hoping for that, but they kind of see. I don't know when in the comics they abandoned that, and we're just like, oh, it's Thor is Thor.
Yeah.
But in the Infinity Gauntlet series, there's the whole subplot of the guy. He's like, I can't tell them I'm not the original Thor, and then he loses the hammer at one point and just becomes a dude, and he's like, oh, I hope they don't see me. And it's like, it's very odd.
I have Iron Man. I think I rate that. Did I say Ant-Man already?
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 next.
Iron Man 2. After Thor the Dark World, I have Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I got Ultron next.
And then...
Oh, and then I have Thor. I have Thor above Ultron.
Okay.
I'm trying to think why. Why is it better than Ultron? Ultron, to me, you know what it is? Is in this... yeah. And, like, this one was kind of guilty of that, too, where I'm like, if you make me sit through a fucking 2 hour and 40-minute movie, I'm going to be a little pissed.
Yeah.
Like, that's really long, dude. There's no... Well, there is a reason for it to be that long, because there's so much shit
going on, yeah.
Going on, you have to make it
honestly,
that long.
for Infinity War, I didn't feel the length. I remember it got to the end, I was like, oh, it felt like a 2-hour movie to me, not a 2.5-hour movie.
There was a certain point...
I did dip out a little bit in the middle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I was like, no.
And that's kind of what I mean. Like, there's a certain point, like, your brain has to correct the fact that you've been sitting there for that long in some way, shape, or form. Some people are like, what's behind that curtain? Right. I start looking at people in the theater, like,
right.
You just have to kind of lull out for a bit, and that movie really pushed it to the point where I was like, oh, Jesus.
And again, I think that's a product of the content, not the length, because if you were invested, you would blink and it's over, but if it's just an onslaught of action...
Yep.
And there's nothing really to follow. You do just sort of check out.
Yeah,
you know?
And you're right. It is the kind of the byproduct of the ending. That moment where we cut to there's a moment where we cut back to Tony. He's about to save Doctor Strange. I think this is when Peter reveals he's been there the whole time.
Okay.
I was like, how long have you guys been on this ship? It's been like an hour since we've seen you guys.
Was it supposed to be minutes later?
It was that. So, anyways,
it was odd.
And then after, did you say yours? Right.
My number 13. Our numbers are going to be off.
Yeah.
Number 13 was was Avengers: Age of Ultron, and then I have Winter Soldier as number 12. It's low on the list for me.
Where's it on mine? I got mine. It's a little bit higher, but not crazy higher. Yeah, that's fair. No, that makes sense. I'll agree with that.
Because I just on the rewatch, I find a lot of these movies on the rewatch are not as good. And Winter Soldier, I find myself checking out on the rewatch, where I was like, this is so...
I like the first act, where it's just like a Tom Clancy movie.
And then it goes into insanity.
Yeah, and then by the time it's like helicarriers flying around Washington...
And giant German computer AIs.
It's like, that scene... With the montage. There is a montage in that movie. Oh, shit.
We need a montage! Montage!
That one's rough because I couldn't stand Colonel von Schmickelblack.
Yeah,
and just him coming back as like a cheesy fucking computer.
I'm going to explain everything to you. Well, not you, the audience, but you get the point.
It was like, why did you make a fucking video? Did you edit this together? Yeah, where'd you get this footage?
But then again, that's where Captain America learns that Tony's parents were killed by Bucky. So I guess there's that. It's remember, because in Civil War, Cap says, "Did you know, Rogers? Did you know?"
Yeah, where's it in Winter Soldier?
When the little Nazis being like, "We've done so many things. Look at this screen of things we've done," and one of them is Stark's parents killed.
Gotcha.
And he goes like, "Oh no, it can't be." And Scarlett Johansson's like, "No." So
she
the implication was it was Bucky. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's Winter Soldier.
What are you on?
I'm on 11.
Okay, I got 12. I have Thor.
Okay.
So we did Thor.
My 12 was Captain America Winter Soldier. My 11 was Doctor Strange. We did Doctor Strange.
My 11 was First Avenger.
Okay. My 10 is Black Panther.
You son of a bitch.
Hey, I think 200 years from now, when all the social connotations have been stripped away and people are judging this in film school as just a series of movies, the actual film itself of Black Panther is pretty standard Marvel fare.
Okay.
I gotta say.
I'm gonna get back to that.
Okay.
Eloquently this time. Because I didn't drink anything intentionally, so I don't sound like a fucking drooling jackass.
Okay.
When I talk about this movie this time.
So what was your 10?
My 10 was Winter Soldier.
Okay, so we'll hit Black Panther when we get to your ranking of it. My number 9 was Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one.
Okay, yeah. I have Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is 9?
And I got 9 for Spidey, yeah.
I like Spidey a lot. Well, my Spidey's in my top 5, so
okay.
we'll get to it.
We'll get back to it. What have we got for 8?
Number 8 is the original Iron Man.
You piece of shit! I am leaving the room.
I rewatched it again in preparation for Infinity War, and I was like, it again, 100 years from now, because without the connotation of it being the first thing that introduced to the world and all that behind it, 100 years from now as a film student watching it, it's like, it's pretty, like it's the first one, but it's still a standard Marvel formula. Like all the rest of them followed it, but it's still the first one that did it. It's still pretty basic formula.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to our listeners for deafening them with my reaction.
All right.
For how low you have placed the holy grail that is Jon Favreau's Iron Man 1.
It's not too low. It's an 8.
We will get back to
8
that.
out of 19.
Right. Where are we? 8. I have Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3. Interesting.
Yeah, I love Shane Black. I rewatched it. I liked it way more than I ever thought I liked it.
That's in my top 5 as well.
The lava people, that's where I start to really get like, oh, for fuck's sakes, that's the villain in this one. But the rest of it, I love a lot. I like the fact that
it's just Shane Black's Iron Man.
I love the fact that he was like, let's do an Iron Man movie where he's not Iron Man.
Yeah.
I love what's it called, like. What he calls himself, the mechanic, and he just pulls on the hoodie and he makes those the Home Alone
things.
Oh, it's awesome! That whole sequence is genius. But at the same time, lava people. So
fair enough. So we're at 8. No, we're at 7. I have 7 as Civil War, because I honestly think the tarmac scene, which actually that's a good review of Infinity War, is that it's 2.5 hours of the tarmac scene from Civil War.
Yeah, it is.
I love that scene, but the rest of the movie is like, I find myself just going skip, and then watching the tarmac scene and then going skip. But I love the inevitability of the conflict at the end. There's no, unlike Batman versus Superman, where all it took was, Lex Luthor has my mom, and that would have ended the fight.
No, that's a genius. Like, I remember,
there's no way to stop that
I love
fight.
the staging of it too, when they walk in the room and they see the bullet holes in the fight, and you're like, what's
going on?
You're like, all the scenes from the trailer where they were punching are about to happen.
Yep. And there's no way he killed his mom,
right?
So there's no way to avoid that fight.
That's my favorite.
From a story perspective,
I don't care. He killed
my mom. Yeah.
I have it much higher. But you are right. You're 100% right. I do love the sequences in that movie, like the opening with the crossbones.
Right.
I like the I'm trying to think what comes after Crossbones. Comes after Crossbones.
It's the Accords. They blow up the building, and then it's Tony Stark doing his memory to his parents.
I like that scene a lot too, of like him being like, saying like the reason I've been a reckless idiot, and like this essentially he's kind of Batman. I kind of want to kill myself.
His $800 million therapy session.
Yeah, is that I'm living with regret for not saying what I wanted to say. That's why I have this death wish essentially to be. Yeah. And then also I've seen aliens come through a portal.
Right. So I'm a little fucked in the head now.
I like that they really started to craft Tony into like this, like, oh, this guy's gonna fucking. Like, they gave him a lot of depth in that one. I think that's why I like it a little more. Because I'm such a fan of Robert Downey Jr. in that role.
Right. My snobbish editing thing applies to this too. I know it's a technical issue and it has nothing to do with the story, but it bugs me if it's like bad music in a good movie. Where you're like, this movie's great, but this music's terrible. It does affect your perception of it. Sure. And the editing in that movie I just find atrocious.
Yeah, it takes you out of it.
It takes me out of it totally.
That's fair. Well, okay. What we got? Are we at 7?
We're at 6.
6. Okay. For my 7, I had Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Okay. That's again
nothing. You're just
I'm saving because my top 5. We haven't hit on yet.
6.
My number 6 was Infinity War. I thought that it was.
That's one of them. I'm definitely missing.
Where would you squeeze in Infinity War?
I don't think I put it this high.
Because I think because what I have above it are all movies I could watch 100 times. Even though I don't watch movies 100 times. I used to when I was a kid, but now I don't have.
And that's just it. That's like the cream of the crop of these movies are ones that just remind me of being like, I'm 10 years old. I want to draw all Saturday. I'm going to put on Star Wars over and over and over and over again. I can do that with these films when they're done really well.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like that's they're trying to bottle that childhood nostalgia.
Right. And I think Infinity War did capture that. Like, for all the complaints, I did enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
I do give it a good 3.5 out of 5.
I'm an easy sell. You show me 2 characters that haven't been on screen together talk, I'm like, yay!
Right. I think the repeat viewing factor is going to be big for Infinity War. Because it's just so much.
For sure.
So that was my 6.
Okay, where would I put it in? I would say right between Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Iron Man 3.
Okay, that works. And anyone I hope someone out there who's listening to this is like, has a whiteboard up and is like writing down our picks. So you fit that in there and then post it as a comment, please. We will love you forever. Number 5, I have the Avengers. The original The Avengers is number 5.
Interesting.
Because I've been more of a fan of the newer films. I think they've been getting better. I think
definitely. I'll agree with that.
Better.
For 6, I had... You're on 5. 6, I had Guardians 1.
Yeah.
5, I have Ragnarok.
Okay, nice. 5 Ragnarok. 4.
So top 5.
It is the top 5. So my 5, your 5 was Ragnarok. My 5 was the Avengers. So let's talk quickly about both of those. Avengers is great. I think there's a lot of... I think it's a lean movie, but there is fat. It's like the whole opening scene at S.H.I.E.L.D. when Loki shows up, I find myself checking out.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that scene.
And the cinematography is brutally horrible, but that's a completely side point. It doesn't even matter.
That opening to me, I remember, because the hype around that movie was nuts. I don't think people, like, if people still were, we were all there. It was insane because nothing like this had happened. We were like, we're pulling together 5 movies. They're all going to stand in a circle and yell.
Right. And when it got to that point, I loved it. That's why it's number 5.
But that opening I thought was so genius because, like, how do you start this movie? And just the idea of, like, we've had this villain in our back pocket.
And he's now showing up.
Yes. And he just pops in the, like, I'm just seeing him and Nick Fury and he just lays waste to be like, oh, yeah, he's an Asgardian god. This guy is terrifying on Earth. I thought that was a genius, genius. It was an amazing way to start that movie. Not like he reinvented the game or anything.
It's delicious dipping sauce for those McNuggets.
Exactly. Yeah. But that opening reminded me of like a Saturday morning cartoon. It reminded me like of an episode of Gargoyles as Anatos will storm into something or other and steal some shit.
Fuck shit up.
And you're like, oh, well, that's what the episode's going to be about. And this one was like, today's episode, Loki does some shit at S.H.I.E.L.D. And you're like, oh, cool.
I think the thing that hits me too, because I've been trying to rewatch as many as I can. Whatever's on Netflix, basically, which wasn't a lot going into Infinity War. Because it's the opening scene which doesn't thrill me as much. But then it immediately goes into like a Black Widow scene, which I don't give a shit about Black Widow. And then it goes into a Hulk scene, and I'm like, it's a brand new Hulk. It's not even Edward Norton. Not that it would be better with Edward Norton, but the fact that reintroducing a character, it's like, I'm here for that end shot where they're all in New York. It takes so long to get there.
There is a lot of that in that movie where it's just like, you kind of just wish it started with them forced together as a team. Right. And then they break apart, and they have to figure out
come back together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like Loki shows up, so they call them, and then they're there at the beginning. Yeah, right off the bat.
Yeah.
That would have been.
And then like you could, because they did a lot more of that in not Ultron. Which one am I thinking of?
Ultron, they make the point of having that ridiculous shot of them all together to show what a well-oiled team they are, and then they just break them all apart, which again thematically is great, but the movie itself kind of sucks.
I don't know. I kind of like wish there was. I know what I'm thinking of, the first Ninja Turtles. Whenever Raphael fucks off, there's a scene where fucking or is it the first one or one of the Ninja Turtles movies? It might be the TMNT one. I'm a huge fan.
The animated one.
I love them. It's good. TMNT is actually surprisingly really real. It's awesome.
I will not comment.
You've seen it?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
But I'm not as big of a Ninja Turtles fan.
Okay, so...
but...
I'm going to briefly go down the rabbit hole here just to make a point.
Ahead.
Like, in the original TMNT, the animated one, Raphael's always kind of been the hot-headed one who doesn't want to play by the rules. Leo's like the leader. Actually,
Michelangelo's the party dude.
This lines up more and more I think about it. You got the guy in blue who's like the authoritarian guys, we're a team, we have to do this, and the guy in the red's like, fuck you, I play by my own rules. So he fucks off and does like you said, like that could have been an interesting way to do the Avengers. I agree. Like it does take a while for them to pick up steam.
Right.
But I don't know, in terms of just doing the staging of it, of like how do we get Thor in this movie? Loki.
Yeah,
and just like how do we get Cap in the game? It's like the Tesseract.
Yeah,
like, the way they just
make sense.
It was such a it was to me it's so measured out so perfectly that every time I rewatch that movie I'm like, oh god damn.
I mean that's why it's in my top 5. Yeah,
it captures all those like I love that one edit. What should we do with the Tesseract? You should have left it in the bottom of the ocean, cut to the water, and the Iron Man suit comes up, and you're just like, I forget how much I love these characters.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Oh for sure. Wait, what was your 5?
My 5 was Ragnarok.
Ragnarok?
As much as I love it.
I loved Ragnarok. I thought it was great.
No, it's awesome.
I thought it was such a much needed tonal shift because Thor is such a boring ass character.
Yep.
I love the Hela stuff. Everyone complains about the Hela stuff.
Hela's awesome.
It feels to be everyone complains about the Hela stuff for the same reason everyone laughs at the trailer jokes in a movie. It's what they've been told to hate about the movie.
Right.
But because I think that character has great depth.
I was so upset when she didn't come back when I was hoping.
As Thanos' love interest. Yeah.
I saw recently that apparently in the comic books that was a new development, is that Hela and Thanos embracing.
Okay.
And I was like, just recreate that panel. Come on. Like.
So he couldn't get Mistress Death, so he went for the Goddess of Death. He has a type.
Right?
The death type.
But, what I love the most about Ragnarok is visually the production design, the sets, the tangible sets. Thank you, Taika Waititi. I missed things that aren't just fucking green screen.
It felt like Star Wars, like actual old Star Wars.
A lot like Star Wars. And, like, that's, like, even little stupid jokes, like, we're going to do a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reference
right, yeah.
for no reason, just because it's funny. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yeah. Why would the Grandmaster
have that? Yeah,
fuck you. It's funny. You know what I mean?
He's apparently his character because he's in Infinity Gauntlet as well. He's not a Celestial, but he's an ancient. Yeah. So I guess maybe he hung out on Earth for a while and saw Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Speaking of which, Benicio in Infinity War.
Oh, so I guess he was just dead because that was just an illusion.
What was with the clapping?
Oh yeah, because he's making weird. I think Disney
he's just lost it.
I don't know because he seems to have been given free reign in Disney movies.
You know what it is? Who was his best friend in Fear and Loathing?
Johnny Depp.
Who played Jack Sparrow?
Johnny Depp.
Who made Disney a bunch of money.
That's true.
They're just like, Benicio, get in here, you son of a bitch.
Because between his Star Wars stutter and his weird little clap, and I get that it wasn't the Collector, it was an illusion, but still, it was
kind of weird that Thanos is like, this is how I perceive this idiot. He's like a Muppet.
It was very odd. That was an odd moment.
That was a really weird moment in that movie.
All right, we're in the top 5 now. Number 4. What's your number 4?
Civil War.
I have Spider-Man: Homecoming as my number 4.
Oh, you like it that much?
I well, because I grew up with Spider-Man, X-Men, and Batman.
Oh, me too.
So, but like that's it. Like that was my trinity. I didn't even know who the fuck a Captain America was until I was in my 20s.
In the early 90s, it was predicated on Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we watched the same bulk of cartoons where that's what I found so fascinating whenever the Nolan movie, Sam Raimi, and the Bryan Singer, like 3 of my favorite directors,
just burst onto the scene
and made those into movies. And I'm like, people are taking these seriously.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they're aging with me. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, but now look the mess we're in. But I think that because Sam Raimi's Spider-Man I love, but it's a Sam Raimi movie with Spider-Man in it.
Yep.
The Amazing duology is pure garbage.
I saw one. I saw one once, and I'm like, I'm good.
It's just terrible. And no fault to Andrew Garfield, because it was the script he was given. I think he made a great Spider-Man, but they wrote him as like an emo skateboarding douchebag.
That's what made me check out. I was like, I don't like this version of Peter Parker.
Yeah, but I think he could have done a great version. That's why I would love to see a Spider-Verse movie with the three of them hanging out and everyone's teasing him for being an emo asshole.
That'd be funny.
But Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, is the first time they really nailed the character 100%. It wasn't like an aspect of the character of Peter Parker. It just was Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And so just for that alone, I rank it really high.
Even just the minutia of, like, the kid being like, I'm going to do a Queen's accent.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a little
like
bit
that.
of Queen's.
By the way, Hardy clearly taking a page out of Tom Holland's book.
Oy.
Being like, if I want to sound like I'm in Spider-Man, I just got to hide my British accent.
But he's so light voice. Why does Tom Hardy have to do a silly voice for everything he's in?
He's got that David Beckham thing going on. Have you ever seen Legend? The movie where he played the twins?
Oh, no, I have not.
Tom Hardy, and Tom Hardy playing a character. So Legend's this flick based on the Crave brothers. They were a set of twins in England.
Okay.
And they were hardcore gangsters. And so one of them's like this like uptight kind of businessman, and the other one's like this raging psychopathic like homosexual. Just like he stands like Bane, like he's all hunched over. Oh, you know I'm a homosexual. Hi! And like you're just like, okay, so one's what Tom Hardy must really sound like. He's got that David Beckham like, hello,
I'm Tom Hardy.
I'm Tom Hardy, and that's him being like, how he wants to look at
right.
I'm a big old tough brick. So I don't know. I think it's just to go back to fucking the Peter Parker of it all. It's just it's to cover up that fucking accent. It's to cover up that accent. They just lean into it.
Bleed into it. He's a little lispy in it too. But I do want to throw out too, because since we're on Spider-Man. Making a Venom movie without Spider-Man is like making a Ben Grimm The Thing movie without the rest of the Fantastic Four.
I don't know what they're going for there.
His origin is so steeped in Spider-Man. The whole drive of the symbiote is that he was scorned by Spider-Man and wants revenge, and that's what kind of turns him into an asshole. Like, without Spidey, it is like Ben Grimm. It's like, hey, I'm the Thing. How'd you become the Thing? Shut up! There's other people.
What are you made of? What did I say?
What did I say to you? I'm from space. Something crashed and I got a thing virus from space. You work a lot better with the rest of the Fantastic Four. What did I say? Shut up! And that's kind of Venom to me. It's just Sony being like, oh, Marvel's fixing our brand. Quick, let's squeeze as much money out of it as we can by the end of the world.
Yeah, because people aren't going to know the difference. They see Venom, they see Spidey, they're going to jump on the coattails.
Yeah, I noticed that in the trailer. It says in association with Marvel. So I wonder if Marvel was like, fuck you.
Don't use our logo.
You better say in association with.
Yeah. My favorite is how many times can you show a fella jumping around and using like the symbiote goo to like whip back onto the bike and shit?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not impressive.
No, it looks so stupid.
We've seen better incarnations of this a billion times.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
And I really wanted him to shoot webs, but instead he shoots tendrils like he's some horrible animated piece of garbage.
It's another example of like, you don't know this character.
No, you do, because Sony doesn't fucking
It's the difference between Logan and Wolverine.
Yes, or X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It really is.
Anyways.
Number 3, we're down to the top 3, motherfucker. Number 3 for me is
first.
Thor Ragnarok's number 3 for me.
Yep.
Which we already talked about.
Number 3 is Black Panther.
Oh, it didn't even make number 1 though, eh?
No.
Oh.
Because I will concede that Black Panther is not a strong superhero movie.
Yeah, I always look at it 100 years from now.
Yeah, it's rough. I'll agree with that perspective. That's why I think it's so great. In 100 years from now, the idea in that movie, the themes presented of like a home for African American people.
Well, hopefully in 100 years from now, they'll be like, was that ever a thing? Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But just the idea of like people can trace their ancestry, directly to you can do that ancestry.com shit.
23andMe and all that, yeah.
I'm lucky enough my dad's straight from Malawi, so my story is very different from a lot of African Americans who don't know their ancestry because of slavery. They just slaughtered bunches of fucking black folk and just that's it. They just threw them off boats. So the idea that like that shot when they go through the little gate and they say we're home, it's the idea of like all these actors on that movie were like Nigerian descent, from Guyanese, were from England, they're from
all of them forced to do a fake accent.
But all showing this like communal unity, this ideology of like we are all from this home. And if we can't give it a name, let's just call it Wakanda. That ideology presented in that movie is so fucking profound, dude. It means so much to me, like, in like, the black community. Because I watched that movie in a room full of African American people and just sitting there realizing, like, yeah, all of us are having this moment right now.
Right.
And that's really rare. It's hard to make that a thing. And,
it's intangible.
I thought that it's so beautiful that, like, listen, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but just the themes presented, and also giving us Eric Killmonger, a character that's so dichotomous. Regardless of your background, you can look at that character and he's not wrong.
He's very Thanos-y in that you're like, oh, he's actually right.
Yeah, it's
in a way. I mean, he's kind of a monster, but he also has a good point.
He's an unforgivable monster, but oh my god, he's not wrong. Like, he's just misguided. The idea of, like, he
wants the eye for an eye.
He's a Wakandan that's been corrupted by the Western world, and it's a beautiful idea of, like,
and he wants revenge.
He wants revenge,
which is always the poison of every villain.
He wants to execute a very specific revenge, the one that the colonizers used on them. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very, like, it's hate, like, breeding hate. That's that character. And T'Challa's like, I'm gonna represent the other side. I don't want to be Malcolm X. I want to be Martin Luther King.
Right. Yeah. It came down between Professor X and Magneto, as the nerds would know it more.
Right. My favorite is essentially, if you think about it, that movie ends with Malcolm X fighting Martin Luther King on an underground railroad.
Right.
And everything about that.
I guess it does, doesn't it?
I'm just like, that is, Ryan Coogler is a fucking gene. That movie's so well balanced and profound.
And I'm going to take the cold, white-hearted perspective of, in 100 years, when you break it down on a technical level, it's just pretty average Marvel movie. I'm going to take that. But can I say one thing that I forgot to say with the last thing is that the first line in the movie that the original Black Panther says made me chuckle so hard. And I want to know if I'm just like a sarcastic asshole. But the delivery of when Black Panther walks into the room at the very beginning of the movie, Killmonger's father gets caught for like trading vibranium, and he just goes, "Silence!" And just his delivery of "Silence" sounded so Monty Python to me.
It's a little bit over.
It was because it was right off of saying, like, 1,000 years ago a magical rock crashed here, and then it cuts to the character going "Silence."
Well, also the fact that,
made
like,
me chuckle so hard.
Anytime you have a character with a mask over his face, it's automatically a little.
Yeah,
but
because I know they got the actor from Civil War to reprise him. They just digitized him to make him younger. Oh, it was a different guy?
It's his son.
I thought oh, really? Interesting.
You see shit like that where I'm like, you're gonna make me cry, Ryan Coogler.
I assume they just digitized him.
No, yeah, they did a really good job, man. He looks almost exactly like they took a picture on the red carpet. They look almost the same.
Really?
And just shit like that.
Silence.
Oh man,
maybe they could have looped his father's delivery in on that one. But anyways. But it just made me chuckle. I just forgot to say that. I forgot to say that in the Black Panther podcast, so it just made me chuckle.
Apologies to the listeners who are now deaf and anyone with like iPods on just blout out there.
Oh God, okay, I'll be quiet.
Jesus.
Anyways, right. I hope there's like a 20,000 message fight on this video between people being like, no, in 100 years, it's just, no, it means a lot to us. I want to see you fuckers fight over it like everyone does. Fight!
Oh yeah, that always works out well.
I'm like a little anarchist. It's like, yes, burn it all.
Oh my gosh.
All right, number 2. We're down to number 2.
I think we've covered my top 2 already, though.
What was your number 2?
Number 2 is Avengers 1.
And my number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love the fuck out of that movie.
We didn't talk about that movie.
It's great. See it.
It's so I mean, it's funny. They really, it is kind of the movie that people just were like, that's awesome, and then we were on to the next thing.
Yeah, really. I know, but like, that's so sad because that's the only Marvel movie I've watched like 3 times.
I think
I'm like, it gets better every time. Every character has an arc.
Yeah.
Every character has a point. It's just pure character development.
And just I love the pairing offs of like Quill's gonna have to reckon some shit with his old man.
Yeah.
Rocket's gonna have to reckon some shit with himself. Yondu's gonna have to evolve into a dad. Like, dude, that ending when you start playing some fucking Cat Stevens. Oh, it kills me.
And then
it's
to
such
have
a good
a $200 million movie end with a CGI rodent like crying, but it's moving.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, cool.
I was rewatching Guardians 1, and like there's beats where like, you know, they do really like, it feels like almost like National Lampoon, like this fucked up family. Like when Rocket, you're drunk, that's, you know, I was thinking of specifically.
Right.
But I'm like, they were scratching the surface. You get to the next one, you're like, you can do that with these characters?
That's
Holy
why I
shit.
hope they keep Gamora dead, because in the third one, it's going to be so fucking tragic.
You're right, yeah.
All right, number 1 Marvel movie for each of us.
Bam. Iron Man.
Iron Man 1 is your number 1.
That's our number 1.
Mine is also Iron Man 3.
Oh my god, here we go.
I fucking love Iron Man 3. I don't, even with the lava monsters, I love Iron Man 3 because it's just Shane Black movie.
Yeah.
With Iron Man in it.
Yep.
So I guess like
kiss, kiss, clang, clang.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna fuck myself over for this opinion right now by saying maybe on a Marvel ranking list it shouldn't be number 1, but just in terms of like enjoyment of a movie, it's my favorite one.
My favorite. See, and if you want to talk about a movie about failure.
Right?
And about like imagery, that shot of him striking the Iron Man pose, and that was it number 64. I forget the name of the.
It was on 42.
Number 4, and it just collapses. That visual metaphor of just like, and he's like, screw it. I'm like, I love that moment. Tony's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna blow up the suits.
I'm a piping hot mess.
Yep.
I just can't do it anymore. Yeah, no, I get something new out of that movie every time, and I do agree that the lava people are silly.
I can't stand it.
But then after, because I went and I read the actual Extremis plotline, and I was like, oh, they were just trying to faithfully capture those same characters. So maybe they didn't do it as well, but now have the comic as a backstory to that decision when making the film, I'm like, oh, I get it. You wanted to throw these guys in. Maybe they weren't so appropriate, but
you're selling me now, man. Because I'm thinking about it, like again, like going back to the Russo brothers, how they were always doing a political commentary in their movie, like it's broad, but it's a political commentary. And that one where they're just like, all those bombings that have been happening,
right?
Maybe it's someone you know who's been doing it, and you're like, oh shit, son, like.
And I also kind of like
they're gonna send Kevin Feige to fucking Dallas in a convertible, dude.
And I like the incredible meta message of the whole thing being about like, it starts with a good idea, then come the compromises, then come the failures, and you're left with something horrible. I'm like, are you talking about the potential like future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now? Like, because you guys are just coming off of Avengers 2, which was basically starts with a great idea, then come the compromises, then come the bad decisions.
Right.
Was that maybe. I'd love to sit down with.
It did definitely feel like them being like
Shane Black.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice. You're right. Like the end of Phase 2.
Phase 2.
Was a lot of just everyone being like, we're kind of done. Remember the end of Ultron? Like Tony's like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm kind of out.
Oh yeah, right. Because Iron Man 3 was after the first Avengers, not Avengers 2. I screwed that up.
Undercutting moments, dude. Sorry, just Infinity War. Like, how did they reunite? That phone call where they actually called Steve Rogers, and they didn't really. It was just kind of glazed over.
Hulk called him. Yeah.
Hulk called him. Bucky sees Steve for the first time. What's up, man? Hey, I got my arm. Anyways,
cool,
and I was like, everyone. I was like, these are great moments that you were just glossed over. And I get like the movie's already 2 hours and 40 minutes long,
right.
but like again, slow it down a little fucking bit.
One thing that made me chuckle is in the comic book, one of the first Infinity Gauntlet, one of the first people to go is Juan. It's Juan, right?
I like Juan.
But I loved in the movie, he's like, I'm out! And he like just takes off. And I was like, I wonder if that was like a meta commentary on the fact that his character dies so early in the book comic.
Gotcha.
So in the movie, he's like, bye!
Yeah.
It just
I love the
takes
idea,
off.
like the portal opens up, he's just like, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And then it closes back up.
I've read the comic, fuck that. Poof.
I read all the books.
And your number 1 is Iron Man.
My number 1 is Iron Man. I love, it's just the plucky little engine that could, that movie. Like, it was just like.
Followed a few months later by Hulk.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, they were just like, we have an idea, and if we can get Sam Jackson to sign on, we can make it into a bigger idea.
Oh, yeah.
That movie reminds me a lot in a weird way. I don't know, maybe I can pin it down, but it reminds me a lot of 89 Batman.
Okay.
Where it's just like, there's no right for that movie to be as good as it was. It's
just
the
lightning
dude
in
who
a bottle.
Yeah, it's dudes who made getting an out of work, like, drug addict. People are like, this guy, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, trust me, he's gonna be great. He crushes the performance. I love
perfect casting. Thank God they didn't get Tom Cruise.
It was gonna be Tom Cruise.
It was almost Tom Cruise.
Jesus Christ,
that would have been terrible.
For like 18 movies.
Yeah,
there's no way it would have been
terrible.
Fucking Jeff Bridges shaving off his hair. That's a milestone within itself.
What was his name? It was
Obadiah Stane.
Obadiah Stane.
Yeah. I'll compromise. I don't really like I'm gonna build a bigger suit and somehow be just as
which
good as
set
a
up the
pilot.
dominoes for every movie to come.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be better at piloting, and I'm gonna punch you.
I think if we were doing this list when Avengers 1 came out, I would have agreed with you.
Yeah.
But I think just seeing that formula over and over and over again, and then going back and seeing the inception of the formula, I don't enjoy it as much.
But it's not. But like that's why I can like encapsulate. That's not the fault of that movie.
Right.
Like, if
for
like what do you call it? You can't blame Rage Against the Machine for fucking Fred Durst.
Right.
Like that's not their fault. That's what happened to rap metal. But like that's what I love about that movie. It's like no one knew it was gonna blow the hell up. And also, I love the fact that the whole second act of that movie is just a dude building a suit.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, it's all practical effects. I watched the making of how he did.
He's got the top section on, and then his legs are.
But then they hoist it up by the boots, so every time they yank it, it gives the effect that the thrusters are faulty. And I'm like, that's so clever. That's old school as hell. And just little things like that about that movie. The machinations of the Mark I suit.
Yep.
Yinsen. When I rewatched it this time and Yinsen died, I was like, Jesus Christ! I forgot this is in the first 15 minutes of this movie.
Then he shows up in part 2, right?
3.
Oh, it's part 3.
In a heartbreaking scene where he sees him at the party and these, again, glosses right over him.
Because he says, we met, you don't remember
You were
me.
drunk. Oh, it's such a, like, that little callback to that moment. You're like, you show me Yinsen one more goddamn time. I swear to God. I love that movie for just being like, this'll work. No, trust us. It's gonna fucking work.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Can I throw one thing that just popped in my head before I forget it? One thing about Infinity War was, do you remember the final scene when everyone's disappearing and Ruffalo is in the background in the Hulk busting suit, and it looks like they just ran out of time and budget.
It looked really lame.
And it's supposed to be such a sad scene of him being all sad, and then War Machine's next to him in the same deal.
It looked really lame.
Because usually they make the chest practical, so it's not as obvious, but they guess they didn't have time.
It bugged the shit out of me.
It looked like I'm Mark Ruffalo, woo, what? Like, meme. It looked like that.
Like, why didn't you just have him step out of the suit? Like, they proved that these can just open up at will.
Because it seemed like a last-minute decision or something.
It looked really silly.
So fast. It was so bad.
Again, maybe that's what it is about Infinity War. It's just like it felt like a lot of just not well thought through decisions of just like let's get this thing out. People we have expectations and deadlines. Let's get
go. We ran out of time. Just go. It does feel like they just needed another month of rendering on those two characters.
Fuck it, we're bumping it up 2 weeks. Right. No.
Yeah. Because even with Rhodey walking through looking for people, it's like, why is he on a PlayStation 2 graphic and his just real head popped out? It's the whole last 5 minutes of the movie. The effects just go. So I'm wondering if that was all reshoots.
Rhodey, what's his name?
There's just when everyone's disappearing, and Rhodey, I don't remember who he's looking for, but he's just walking around in the War Machine outfit, just being like calling for someone. I don't remember who, and it's just this wobbly head on top of this super animated machine by him. Like, so that was like a reshoot. That must have been a pickup, and then they ran out of time. Right. And just had to get it out. But it was just that made me chuckle. That was completely off the rails from the list, but that made me chuckle.
I don't know. That movie really did make death obsolete in that universe.
Kind of
feels like X-Men now.
A little bit.
You know, like, people can come back if they fucking die. Who gives a shit? They'll recast them and they'll be fine.
And he's got the Soul Stone, too. So, from a story perspective, anyone who gets that gauntlet in the next movie can literally bring anyone back to life who died. I think it's going to be everyone who turned to dust, but it technically could be anyone. So that is a way too powerful of a machine.
I think that's where you leave it, man. On the crux of what will happen.
Right.
What do you think's the speculation for the next part?
My speculation is that the next one, actually, it's a bit of a, because Mark Ruffalo said something which got my gears turning, which I don't know if I should repeat it here to you, but in an interview he said, "What would you call the next Avengers 4?" And Ruffalo said, "The Long Goodbye." So I think it's just going to be the original Avengers again, the guys from the very first Joss Whedon movie teaming up, and they realize they have to sacrifice themselves in order to save everyone else. So that's going to wipe the slate clean of the first 4 Avengers. Maybe Black Widow, maybe not. I don't know. Hawkeye, maybe not. But those guys for sure, Hulk, Iron Man, Cap, and Thor, will be dead, and everyone else will be back, and that's going to start the next chapter.
Right.
That's my assumption. And it's going to be a 2-hour movie
to reason.
Of them just plotting of how to get the gauntlet back from Thanos.
And just like, again, the part 1 of the Harry Potter movie where it's Harry and Hermione go camping, this kind of felt like that. It's just like, we're just going to set up exactly what is going to happen in the second one, because all the good shit's going to happen in the second one.
Right.
This just felt like a big placeholder.
Right.
And Again, I get it. The movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. You got a lot of shit. It's essentially Avengers meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I guess that's why it's awesome and also a giant fucking bad idea at the same time.
It's a buffet. It's like trying to review the Mandarin.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening to this who doesn't know what the Mandarin is, it's just a giant buffet.
And you got your local giant Chinese food buffet where like the huge steam trays and everything.
Right. So review that meal. And you're like, I don't fucking know how.
I think I ate 14 egg rolls.
And I want to go out on the note of saying, just brutally saying, if you're 35 to 40 years old and this movie broke you emotionally,
grow the fuck up. Jesus Christ!
There might be something wrong with you. You might be caught. You're part of the system, now. This Arrested Development Hollywood system of keeping everyone in a juvenile state,
seriously,
screaming at each other over nothing on Twitter and breaking down over a Marvel movie means you're not maturing as a human.
I'll pass you an olive branch to those people. Like whenever Peter was like, "Don't let me go, Mr. Stark," I was like, "Oh, that's kind of sweet."
There are moments for
they
sure.
They did like they were like a band of brothers kind of moment, and I like that. But I'm not fucking crying. That's ridiculous.
If you're 15 and it broke you, Godspeed. If you're 20 and were 10 when the first Iron Man came out, Godspeed. But if you're like pushing 40 and this movie broke you, you might want to take a step back and evaluate what the world has done to you.
Another olive branch. Han Solo, I'll forgive. You can cry during Han Solo because that character's been around for 40 freaking years.
Right.
These guys were
Sack
up.
I think the theme of this podcast has been sack up. And the final thing I want to say is, if you've enjoyed our insults and ranting and aren't feeling too personally offended by what we've said, check us out at spaceactionheroes.com. There you'll find a wonderful comic about 4 misfits and a robot going on delightful adventures. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube. That would be great. We need some YouTube subscribers. So fucking subscribe to that YouTube, and we'll give you... Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will personally kiss every subscriber right on the eyeball.
Yeah, unless you're crying because of the movie broke you.
And
I swear to God, if you do cry, they would leave you to die on a rock. You know, back in the old West,
you'd be the first to go.
Yeah, you can't lift a pail of water.
And I get you shouldn't be. I understand the you shouldn't judge someone else's emotions, but at the same time, if someone's upset over a Snickers bar, you can go, dude, objectively, it's pretty fucked up. You're upset over a Snickers bar, and I kind of think comic book movies fall into that category of maybe reassess or broaden your palette and see all other movies.
You want to see that really fucking come to a head? Which is better, folks? Justice League or Infinity War?
Ooh. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to say Justice League is better than Infinity War, right, DC?
Don't touch me.